I'd like to share with you a picture of me with my crush. Yep, that's me with Albert Einstein. One of my coaching clients made this for me, probably because I'm always quoting Einstein. If we always do what we always did, we always get what we always got. I teach a workshop that explains the 5 traits to success to hit your goals, no matter your goal or your background or your struggles. I've witnessed time and time again opportunities missed because we haven't set the net to catch our destiny. And the fact is that 92% of us miss hitting our goals. Goals like having a better relationship, or finding deeper purpose, or improving our health. I'm so passionate about decoding success for myself and others, I've written a book about it, and I host a radio show to talk about it. But how do we decide we're not always going to do what we always did? That we're going to disrupt the status quo to achieve our dreams? To get there, we're going to have to dispel some of the most widely held beliefs. In my workshop, I outline 3 status quos that must be banished from our life in order to achieve greater success. But first, I want to share with you my self-disruption moment, that fork in the road when a decision could change your life, if you let it. I want you to imagine me sitting at my kitchen island on a sunny afternoon, and my index finger is poised to hit the send key on my laptop. But I am frozen in fear. Let me be honest, self-doubt. My heart is racing. I'm sitting on the brink of my new destiny. You see, my life at that point has not been going the way that I wanted. I liked my job as a decorator, but it didn't feel very meaningful. And the phone has stopped ringing. My last big account has just returned a major order. I'm not going to be able to keep the doors open. I'm going to be in financial trouble. After 10 years, I was unsure about how I was going to support myself. And I wondered, how did I get here? I've worked so hard. On top of that, I began to feel that technology was moving on without me. When a small child can walk into a room and turn on the TV that I still can't figure out, I know I have a problem. Or when I chat with my brother about his job in software and he says, "You wouldn't understand. It's about computers." Ouch, that stung a little. I was being left behind in an age of information. And you see, it's on me. I have severe dyslexia, so I haven't always had the best relationship with traditional learning. I felt frustrated and stuck. Not long after, while waiting at the dentist office, I grabbed the only magazine off the rack. It was about computers, and I thought, I'm going to grab a quick bit of information to share with my brother. I'll surprise him. The article was about disruption. Now, to me, disruption sounded horrible, like upheaval and chaos. As a matter of fact, I've spent most of my life trying to avoid disruption, trying to keep it all together. But this was talking about disruptive innovation, how a new business in a matter of a few years could take over an industry, how Netflix went from not even being on the radar to becoming the leader of a marketplace, putting Blockbuster out of business. Disruptors shook up traditional business with unconventional success that had astonishing results. Like how Instagram went from 2 guys that weren't even software engineers, and in a matter of 24 months, reimagined what we think about social media. That Facebook would end up buying for $1 billion. That's a B. That's what I needed. I need to go from 0 to 60. I need to reimagine myself. I wondered if this disruptive innovation is a real thing. Can I apply it to my life? Because I need self-disruption. I need a faster way to jump to the front of the line unconventionally and rocket ship my goals. I wondered, is this a real thing? Or is this just a catchy headline disruptive innovation? Is it just lucky, smart people being at the right place at the right time? Or is there a formula? I was curious. And I wanted to impress my brother, so I started researching it. Okay, I Googled it. But before you know it, I'm consuming as much information on disruptive success as possible. I was like a detective. Imagine piles of spiral binders and notes scribbled as I'm sleuthing out disruptive innovation. Little did I know then I was at the start of my 55,000-word journey of my first book. My brother was going to be in trouble next time we talked. Of course, I know innovation is for business. They have a plan and a roadmap and leadership to chart a course. But in our own lives, we don't get anyone to suggest a path. I wanted to improve my odds of success. I was stuck, and I didn't have any tools to get unstuck. I thought if we could just apply the success of business to our own life. With all the downsides of dyslexia, I've always known about my gift for puzzles. Ever since I was a child, I've been able to put things together in new ways that others don't always see. I could struggle with a basic sentence. Like this. A dog with a bone might look like this. But the puzzle of finding something else in this gentleman's face actually feels easier to read. Can you see what it is? I'll give you a hint. It's a dog with a bone. You see his ear is the tail? No? Try to see it upside down. Let me help. I could struggle to read the words, but I could solve the puzzle. So I wanted to see if my skills of seeing things in new ways could help me reimagine disruptive innovation. Which brought me to the father of disruptive innovation, Harvard professor, the late Clayton Christensen. Again, I'm asking, how did I get here? A brilliant and cutting-edge thinker, a Rhodes Scholar and economics professor, and visionary at the Harvard School of Business. He outlined the unique traits to be a disruptor. Disruptors had a formula, and he wrote, but I'll give you the Cliff Notes. Start simple, a bottom-up approach, move up relentlessly. That sounds simple enough. He went on with his partners Jeff Dyer and Hal Gregerson to conduct a 6-year study analyzing super successful disruptive innovators, what set them apart from the others, and what they all had in common. The 5 traits, the secret sauce of success, if you will. Detailing exactly what it is to be a superachiever. Now I am hooked. You see, the scientists looked at the data observationally. I looked at this list of traits like a how-to handbook, and I've come up with a picture that best illustrates my findings. Very technical. These brilliant thought leaders revealed you have to think like a 4-year-old. You got it. I'm not kidding. The 5 traits of superachievers, people like Mark Benioff and Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos, it's not an Ivy League PhD or even natural talent, but to be able to think like a 4-year-old, something we've all done? Let me explain. Disruptors ask questions. A 4-year-old never stops asking questions. On your path to success, you must ask, why not? What if? Why can't I? Even the uncomfortable questions, like kids are so good at asking. You have to question and explore your wild card life like a child by interviewing and asking people living your dream. Science shows we better connect when we see other people doing what we want to do. Observing. Children are observers. It's how they learn. It's how we all learn. Observing for opportunity. Observing is gathering information and finding patterns and looking for problems. If I was more observant, I would have realized that my decorating business was in a death spiral, but I was hypnotized by my own status quo. Amp up your observing skills by letting yourself be curious, channeling the power of curiosity. Experimenting. The sandbox is a perfect example. Kids at play, trying new things, auditioning concepts, taking things apart to put them back together again, and prototyping ideas. Experimenting helps you reframe failure. When Thomas Edison was asked about all the failures of the light bulb, he famously answered, I haven't failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that it doesn't work. Networking ideas for problem solving. Kids are great at finding people to help solve their problems. If they have a problem, they go ask a grown-up. But adults tend to kick around the idea internally. Disruptive innovators channel their inner 4-year-old, aligning and networking with people who can help accelerate their goals. Remember, you are 6 people away from a solution. How many people have you met today? associating, connecting the dots with all of these skills in new ways. Like when you see a kid use a colander for a hat, reimagining how things can work, turning problems into solutions, puzzles to find opportunities. You mean to tell me that the brightest minds the world has seen has studied the most successful people on the planet, and these 5 traits are what matter? That they've caught lightning in a bottle? Why aren't we sharing this formula with people? Why aren't we letting them hit their goals and teaching it to children? They just needed to be reimagined for life, not just business. I affectionately call the 5 traits no quo. I imagine no quo like a laser, no status quo. These skills are learned. You don't have to be born with them. You have to train them. Now that you know the 5 traits of no quo, how do we use no quo in our personal life? You train it to root out and banish some of the most preconceived notions of the status quo. We're going to talk about 3. This thinking in psychology is called dysfunctional beliefs. These myths must be shattered to allow the disruptive power of no quo to flourish in our lives. The first myth, it's not my time. I'm too old or I'm too young. This is your life. You're not too late for it or too early for it. You know, it's against the law to hire and fire by age, of course, but we do it to ourselves every day, deciding it's not our time. You have to hire yourself to live your dream. You're hired. You're hired. I'm hired. Myth number 2, better the devil we know. Sound familiar? Resistance to change. The idea that something else could be worse. Research in this field shows that resistance to change is the #1 reason people stick with the status quo. Which brings us to myth number 3, dysfunctional belief. I've already invested all this time. It's all I know. What I didn't know was that my resistance to change came with a price. The status quo robbed me of the opportunity of what I could have been doing. 10 years of the wrong thing could have turned into a lifetime of unfulfilled work, instead of 2 years of the right passion-filled purpose. To master the art of self-disruption, I aim the 5 traits of no quo like a laser to overcome my resistance to change, like a disruptor. I question, am I going to accept my low technology skills? So I experiment with new ways to learn, observing what other dyslexics are doing, networking ideas to renegotiate my obstacles, associating and connecting the dots on how I could reframe my life. During a workshop, a client named Jeff asked a great question. How can you use a business method in your personal life? What about the human factor? That's what's so beautiful about business structure. It helps cut out some of that personal resistance that can derail our path. Jeff's in finance, and he would never go into work and say, we're not going to do the merger today. I don't feel worthy. But in our own life, self-doubt creeps in, and we renegotiate our dreams, worried about what other people might think. Like that moment when I was sitting at my kitchen island. Okay, so let's go back to that fork in the road. I'm sitting there at my kitchen island on that sunny afternoon. I am frozen in terror, sitting on the brink of my own self-disruption. I'm 1 click away from registering for a graduate-level data science program at MIT. My beliefs were, I don't have the time or the money, and I'm terrible at math. My idea of machine learning? Running the vacuum. I was at the doorway of my own self-disruption. Fast forward years later, after coaching clients through disruption and interviewing world-class PhD, Ivy League professors, authors, and thought leaders about the topic on my radio show, I'm more convinced than ever that what disruptive innovation has done for a business, it can do for a life. The results of me not always doing what I always did, I've become an author, which is no small feat for a dyslexic. I've earned multiple certifications, Dartmouth, Yale, Berkeley, MIT, and yes, Harvard. I've built a consulting career in IT that even my brother recommends. I'm a disruption coach with a radio show that shepherds the journey for others. Why I mention this is because I've turned my own untapped potential into a career to help others find the untapped potential in themselves. And I ask you, who else does your success affect? I no longer wonder how I got here. I know how I got here today on this TEDx stage with you. I banished status quo from my life with no quo, and I thank you for being a part of it